I'd like to announce that we're starting the work session.
Okay.
I'm looking for my email, but I might have.
All right. Thank you, Chair McLaughlin. I wanted to give some updates on Preservation Month, starting in a week, National Trust Preservation Month. We take part every year. This Wednesday, we will have a proclamation. Next Wednesday, on May 2nd, City Commission meeting at 7 o'clock, we will have a proclamation read by the mayor utilizing the National Trust template, and we'll be giving out the Ruth Powers Preservation Award.
What day was that?
This next Wednesday. Not tomorrow, but a week from now. So I will formally invite everybody to come, and somebody from the board will shake, which I will not name because it's a surprise until the night of the meeting, but the recipients will have the award. I do a nice little framed award, and I'll show some before and after photos, and that'll get done on the first.
Do you want me to do that?
If you can make it, if not, if we can have somebody else from the Historic Review Board.
I got out of it last year. I can do it. I mean, I have scouts, but I can do it.
It's going to be basically from 7 to 7:30.
So it'll be the first.
It'll be first up. And proclamations are before citizen comment. Very smart. So a citizen comment that goes on awry won't stop the proclamations. They always start the first thing.
Okay. So here, 7 o'clock next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Can you send me an email?
Yes.
I know I might have to put on some khakis or something. I've done that before. Who was it with the people for the Ermitinger House when I gave it to them, I think? It was a couple years ago.
Black tie affair, huh?
No. There won't be any tie.
So that's exciting. It's always fun. I think it's a nice feel-good event.
It is exciting.
The second Preservation Month activity, which we will announce at the second City Commission meeting of the month, will be the photo contest. So it sounds like it's moving forward. We were able to get in the utility billing mailer as part of the other planning. So there's some planning information on the front. It's a 1/3 cutout sheet. Some other planning information, and we got the back end. And it directs you to the Clackamas Historical Society's new website, which they're just uploading, and we are going to link to it. I think it'll be a good way to get traffic to their website. So we'll be creating a link on the city's website, which will link to theirs, where the contest information and entry forms will be. A Clackamas Historical Society member and benefactor is going to provide prize money, which is very exciting as well.
Oh.
So we're working on the final numbers of that, but there's going to be 3 categories: youth, which will be 10 and under, teen, 11 through 18, and adult. And there'll be prizes for all 3, and the winners will be mounted and presented at the museum in July, and will be added to the Eddy exhibit for the time that the Ralph Eddy exhibit is being promoted this summer at the museum. So that's exciting, and hopefully some kids and some families. We're trying to work with the school district to get this information out before school gets out. And we are putting together a nice 1-page PDF flyer, which will get done soon, which will be kind of, I think, the way we send everything. Nice flyer, go to the website, the application information, and all the rules, which are currently being reviewed by our attorneys, will be available. And so it's going to be co-sponsored by the Oregon City Historic Review Board and the Clackamas County Historical Museum. So I think it's a nice feel good, and the idea is see Oregon City's historic homes, structures, and landscapes through your lens to find Oregon City's hidden gems is kind of the angle, because Ralph Eddy, the photographer, often had a unique eye, and kind of we chose a photo of the flyer of a kind of unique angle of the Arch Bridge from the 1940s, and it's kind of neat. So, and I was able a chance to get a preview of the exhibit, and there's some really neat looking photos. Ralph Eddy had a studio here in Oregon City, but he also had a lot of photos from the coast and the gorge. And one wall that I think is fantastic, because he did portrait photography, they put a wall together of a composite of all these different portraits of the clients, they just had the negative. So they did it. So you walk and you just see this mass of different people's portraits from like 1910 and 1920. It's really neat. Just kind of the average, the family, the little boy, the soldier, the newlywed couple. It's a nice piece of humanity.
Wow.
So I really like that. And we're going to make the presentation to the city commission will be at the second meeting. I think we're kind of break up the proclamation and the award the first meeting of the month, and then announcing the photo contest because it's going to run through May and June.
Has the person receiving the award been
Yes,
notified?
Has been contacted.
Okay.
And the mayor knows the recipient as well.
How'd that go?
Good.
I'm sure he was excited.
So that's all I have for Preservation Month, and I think we'll work on using the Historic Review Board members on the choosing committee. So once we get closer to actually having submittals, we'll work on who wants to be involved on of the two groups that will choose the winner.
Got it.
Winners.
Cool. Okay.
All right. So the design guidelines for alterations and additions. If you remember, the last month we reviewed the redesign and kind of reformatting of the design guidelines for alterations that added the Secretary of Interior standards. You gave me a recommendation about landscaping and altering that one section, which wasn't really a rewrite. It was more of a modifying.
Yeah,
we
just
talked
modify
about
the sentence.
expansive landscaping. I have yet to do that. So that's what this update is, which I've been a little busy on other projects this month. But I have yet to really do any outreach to the McLaughlin or Kenema Neighbor Association, so I wanted just to formally let them know what it really is.
Okay.
And then this summer we'll adopt it by resolution, just so to make it all formal.
Okay. This popped in my head. Is there anything for next month?
Yes, we will be having a presentation with Brian Vaughn from Metro on the Kenema open space area. So he's been planning for months to be on that. I originally thought it was April, but it was always the May meeting.
Is that
Okay.
for a work session or for meeting?
It'll be a work session, 6
Work
o'clock
session. But you don't have any.
I don't have any. There's no land use, but I don't know about grant applications till about 1 or
Another
2 more
week.
weeks. Yeah,
Okay.
because they have a shorter lead time.
Yeah.
But there are no land use applications in May.
Okay.
Okay.
So the gentleman who came last time will be at the next
Be
meeting?
able to come back.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Brian has done this presentation to the City Commission and the Natural Resource Commission, and he's the project manager on it, so he has a full understanding of kind of the issues relating to the site.
Okay.
I wanted to give you if you recall, the 2012-2013 CLG grant was the multiple property submission working with Main Street. And I wanted to give you an update and have you give me a verbal concurrence that you agree with a little bit of change in tactic. And so I want to give you a little background. When I started scoping the multiple property submission and talking to Lloyd Purdy with the Main Street Oregon City, he had a little pause for caution about kind of jumping on it without letting property owners get a better understanding of the benefits of National Register listing, more than just the sheets you can give, and the tax credit. And he said you really need someone who knows what's going on. And I talked to Curry Gill at SHPO, and I said, could a portion of the grant be utilized to pay for a tax credit consultant who does this, to look at a property owner and say, based on what you say in your project is, based on your income stream and what your business model is, I see a tax credit program working for you, and a nomination makes sense to move forward. And then, or what you really want to do is not going to make sense because what you want is a lot of things aren't going to be projects. Set parts that are in the approved for certified rehabilitation and don't count towards the program. Things like structural improvement count, but things like putting a new kitchen in wouldn't count for tax credit. So depending on what your project was, you might have different emphasis on things that are qualified or not qualified for the program. And and then also, if in the next 5 years you can be building rich and money poor. So if you aren't making a lot of money, you can't really take a tax credit. So truly understanding how you can take that credit over a certain number of years and how that may work with your business model, it may not. So we've had preliminary conversations with Jessica Ingram with Venerable Properties. Art DeMuro is a well-known downtown Portland developer who specializes in historic preservation and rehab. And he has now kind of expanded his business to also do, not only he does all of his in-house tax credits, but he has a consulting as well for property owners who want to take advantage of that. And we've had some preliminary conversations with Jessica Ingram about coming in and having kind of real brief one-on-one conversations and putting together like a 2-page report back to them, like based on what we heard. We think that, this is kind of the money you could save for a National Register tax credit qualified project. Based on preliminary understandings of your business model, this would make sense. And that would be something that would not be shared with the city or Main Street, so they could provide her really specialized private information about their income. But she would send back to Main Street and the city an executive summary about how that went. And that was the understanding of the people that went through that and had that meeting with her. They'd feel much more comfortable about moving forward with supporting a nomination for their building and help paying for it. So Lloyd really felt that there was a step that was missing and that the CLG grant can pay for it. Not knowing how many people would be interested in meeting with her and how much information she can give back, because some people already know they want to do this, like 1 or 2 property owners, and they may get targeted answers to her, and some people may need to be more sold on the program based on her one-on-one with them, so she'll kind of target what she does with each property owner based on their circumstances, but there's only a finite amount of time she can spend. So what I'd like is kind of a confirmation back from the board is if this sounds good, because it could be up to $1,500 of the $2,000 grant. I mean, $20,000 grant, 10 from the city and 10 from SHPO that would be used for this. But I think if we want this to be a successful program, the more I'm thinking about it, I think this is a really good approach to make sure once we have those property owners, they understand exactly why they're doing it, and then they are also much more invested in helping paying for part of their nomination, because we're not going to be paying for all of their nomination.
And this is like a subset of the overall Main Street portion that doesn't include any particular building. We're just hoping to attract building owners to put in. Right.
So the idea is the grant will pay for the the kind of master document, multiple property survey. Yeah. And then with whatever's left over, because we think we have a lot of base information, so whatever consultant we hire to do this, they aren't going to be working from ground zero. They're going to be working with years of surveys and context statements that can already be a base of a National Register nomination. So we don't know how much money really that base document's going to end up, how many hours it's going to take to do that.
Yeah.
So, and we don't know how many property owners may be interested and getting the National Register, so we can't quite figure out exactly what kind of match will be. So it's really a combination of how quickly this consultant could do that master document based on existing information, plus supplementing it, and what's left over, dividing that between the property owners that are interested, but also expecting them to put some skin in the game and providing some money on their own. So that ratio really is going to be in flux until we get a better understanding of how many people we have and how much work we've already done that we can kind of use. And the idea would be that Jessica would meet with these property owners, get an understanding of who wants to move forward, and then I would release an RFP for just a preservation consultant to write the National Register MPS. And there'd be 2 different people.
Yeah. I think it's really important that we, I agree with Lloyd. And it's important that as, this gets out there, that we're pursuing that base document, that it doesn't affect their building so no one freaks out.
Oh, yeah.
And I really don't think there's going to be anyone beating down the doors or a huge line to try and get in here and capture the time with, that for that $1,500. I do think it would be a good investment. We've tried several ways to entice or encourage people to do it. And unless they see it penciling it, no one's going to do it.
Yeah, I think what I think works really well here is we're taking it to the next step. In a sense, we're giving them almost free professional, financial, and
Throw it in front
advice.
of them so that they can at least.
And they have to
Take a
reject the graph that's given to them with the number at the bottom based on the.
Yeah.
And she'll ask for inputs for them to give her before she meets with them one-on-one at their property. So she'll get to the site, and she'll have kind of expectation of what their project would be, what they generally their income is. I mean, and that's the idea. Is we want this to be a private report back to them, so they feel fully confident to share some of those information that they wouldn't share if they felt that we would get a hold of it. So really, we will just get an executive summary letter back from her.
Yeah.
Plus, maybe working with a letter of commitment. We're thinking of maybe doing a one-page letter of commitment at the end of the process that have a property would say a non-binding letter of support to move forward with the nomination process, knowing that obviously they could remove that at any time. But
What
we
would
could
that-
get those letters and know how many buildings we're dealing with.
What would that executive summary entail? Obviously, it wouldn't be a capture of
No, it'd
these
be,
people
I
make this
met,
much in
no, I
rents
met
and-
with these
Okay.
people, and some fell out because of their business model. Some fell out because they really aren't going to spend enough money to meet the qualified expenses.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing that we're going to get back.
Yeah.
Or these two people want to move forward, but it's going to be information back, but it won't spell out kind of private information.
Okay. And you mentioned Art. Were you thinking about bringing him in to consult as well, or just as
No,
an
because
example?
he's the bigger picture. Jessica Ingman works for him, and that's what she does. She's the tax credit specialist for
Yeah.
for rentable properties. So Art would just be there. We thought about, do we do ask Art to come in to do a presentation, and we were worried about really working and paying for him to come, or begging him to not pay him, either way,
Yeah.
and not have people show up. So we thought setting up a one-on-one would be the best way, and try to combine them into one day or one morning or 2 mornings, so Jessica can come down
Okay.
and go from building owner to building owner on site at their building.
Okay.
And that, I think, is you're going to get the best response back from property owners than scheduling another meeting to hear another
Yeah.
And then if people don't show up, then we feel like we're a failure. And we
Doing
pulled someone
some
in.
major holding of hand here that
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
seem like. I mean, it's all good. I just hope
It's that one-on-one holding. Sometimes people aren't sure until you have
with
this-
something like this, that's all the way you have to go to them. They're not
Yeah.
going to come to this.
Yeah, and you have to show them like this numbers that are
Yeah.
related, because sometimes
Make
you
it
can
positive.
say 20% tax credit, and you can give all these numbers and you should give the flyers and talk about successful products and show before and after pictures, but until you relate it to their project,
Yeah.
sometimes people don't get. And I think the other thing that she's really good at, I think will be good at telling, which if I tell it, people don't believe it, which is once you do a certified rehab, you've done all the work on the exterior building. You're probably never going to come back to me as a city planner for a local review. But almost all your review is during that time you're doing a certified rehab. And if you're getting tax credits, like we in the city in Oregon City are not going to deny something that's some extra alterations that's been certified by the National Park Service.
Sure.
Most likely. So if you're worried about kind of that regulatory aspect, we're not reviewing the interior of your work. The Petzold building is a perfect example. Herb Arbor did it. I've yet to ever be contacted because no exterior work has ever been proposed because they've just
Sure.
done their job. And it's just repair and maintenance from then on.
All right.
I'll probably need to. Anyways, NAOP on May 3rd is having a really interesting meeting that, if you.
What is that organization? Sorry.
NAOP. It's a difficult acronym. Okay. National Association of Industrial and Office Space. Or Properties. Anyways, they're holding a meeting or presentation about historic buildings and revitalizing those and everything that folks on Main Street may be interested in. So if you have some emails that you'd like to shoot out, I can shoot you the information about that.
And then Lloyd
also-
is doing the kind of he's doing the outreach to the property owners.
Okay, then maybe I'll shoot him.
Yeah, so you can do I think that's the idea is we're trying to make this as much of a collaborative, non-regulatory. So Lloyd, we've been putting together just a draft letter of coming from him to work with Lloyd to set up a time, and he's going to be kind of the administrative go-between.
Yeah, and not to put down what you are doing in any way. I think when a city approaches a building owner or a developer and says, "We would like you to look at this," they go, "Where's
Yep,
the hitch?" That's
absolutely.
the automatic thing. But if you're able to, through Lloyd or some other avenues, point them in the direction of some educational bodies that focus on catering to the needs of developers or property managers, I think that would be a much more efficient way to go of your time. And
Like ULI things, you mean, or kind of that?
yeah,
Or?
yeah. Through the ULI, they could certainly invite Art in to speak about some of the issues that you're talking about. NAIOP, this meeting that they're having on the 3rd is a good opportunity. So,
Yes, we've held out maybe a future meeting, but we just didn't
Yeah.
want to hold a meeting that we
Possibly
thought
no one's
this
gonna come to.
one-on-one would be the best first approach to property owners.
yeah.
Because there are people that are on the fence, and then so it'd be interesting what information do they need to get to the other side.
Okay. Sorry, John.
It's
No.
the part of the project we weren't able to do when we tried it twice before.
Yeah.
It's the part that's really needed.
And a perfect example is Michelle Reeves was a consultant paid by Metro last year that did some work downtown and did those 2 case studies on the Bush Weinhardt Building and the Masonic Temple with Brian Emmerich. And everything that was coming out of her mouth was the only way you're going to rehab this is historic rehab. Their gap financing is too big. You're going to have to find other funding schedules. And she brought developers in that do historic rehab. And everything that I could say, she was saying, and just heads were nodding everywhere. So it was just really validating, like, yes, you're listening to her, go, that's fine, listen to her. So that was the only update I wanted to get. This all kind of came in the last month, and I started moving forward, but before we finalized anything, I wanted to get your concurrence.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's fine with verbal, since SHPO has already signed off on,
Yeah.
Yes.
on a scope change.
Anything else?
Ermitinger House update. My photo with ARG is diligently working on plans. I will get you the date if you want to show up kind of in the peanut gallery, but she will be making a presentation to the City Commission in May to give them an update of what's going on. There will be probably some... So hard, because there are some decisions to be made, and the question is, can we look at options in these drawings that we can push off further decisions to a later date and kind of say, if you want to do option A, this is what you can do. If you want to do option B, this is what you can do, rather than having to make some tough programmatic decisions that I feel like, I mean, they're all correct in a historic sense, but there's different philosophies behind them. And I don't know if we quite have the answer right now to figure out what path we want to go down. So she's going to kind of make that presentation. I don't think there's going to be any decision made, but she's just kind of updating the City Commission on some of the issues and approaches. I mean, the one problem is that she's doing these plans based on it still being a house museum occupancy. Knowing that in her back of her head, like, what if it was changed to this? Would that change anything? What was if it was changed to this? So it's just how to, or if it was more in the future, what if it was ever rented out as more of a commercial office space? Does that change anything? And if it was owned by the Park Service, does that change anything? If so she's trying to look at all potential end users, and then also how far. What exactly are we trying to show? Is it the traditional preservation model, which is everything that's over 50 years old generally has a story to tell and should be retained? Are we trying to restore it? What are we trying to repair? Maybe incorrect alterations that didn't quite tell the story correctly. Not as much outside. A lot of these questions are interior questions, finishing questions. So not knowing the end user, what some of the finishing answers we might not have. So she's retained Bill Hawkins, who has such a classical understanding of territorial age homes, and that's kind of his passion in Oregon City, especially classical revival homes. and Georgian homes classical revival homes in 19th century Oregon, and so he has some passionate opinions, but not knowing this end user, and once again, none of them are incorrect answers. So,
There could
and
be
we don't know
multiple options.
There's multiple appropriate options based on
Yep.
lots of reasons that might coalesce to a path, but we're not there today. So how do we look at these plans and use them as we move forward in this rehabilitation program? Because things we do know is there will be a full basement, most likely, and that's going to be a way to mitigate some of the unstructured fill and some of the issues. That's probably going to happen regardless, and there'll probably be an ADA ramp in the rear. So those things will probably be knowns, but there's some other things that may be add-ons or alternate options. So talking with the city commission, and these are mainly interior issues, not exterior.
Yeah.
So if you put in an ADA ramp, what are you going to do about somebody that with an ADA issue that can't go upstairs?
Well, you're just not going to go upstairs. And nothing's triggering it. So the idea, there's some work is being triggering it, but you provide accessibility to the best ability you can. And providing accessibility to the ground floor moves you closer.
Oh, no, wait a minute. For $800,000, to hit 25% of that, you could definitely put in an elevator.
Our conversations with our building division had a different analysis of that, but we've been
There's not a lot of
working
room for
with
that.
our building division about what was triggering what.
So, well,
It would be
I
worth it.
I kind of don't understand why you can't approach it to rehabilitate it so that it could do what it
money
did
to do
before it fell
anything to
apart, and then if it goes to something else
But there's not a whole lot.
later, like an office space or something like that, and you cross those bridges when you get to them.
Right, but it's what level of plans do we want her to
Someone's
create?
gonna scream.
And so, and I don't want to get into in detail because I'm not the consultant and I don't have that level of detail.
Right.
But I wanted to just give you a heads up that it's more of a it's more of a I'm trying to think of the right word. There's a little bit of chicken egg going on here, and so it's just trying to figure out
I don't know how these
how to
projects end up doing this.
best move forward with the information we have to be as flexible as we move forward on future programming.
It just
and
sounds
understanding.
wishy-washy.
It
I don't
does
want to
too.
make any kind of
But
decision
we won't
on
know
this.
but some of it's like that. But some of maybe details like the interior. Do we want to keep the interior?
Just make a decision and just do it. I don't.
Which
I just-
finish do you want to rip out of which room in order to
Yeah.
put something in?
You know.
Sure.
So I'm not going to get into detail, but I will give you the time and date if you want to attend that. It's not a work session with the board, but you can listen in. And so it'll be available on streaming video once
You
it's
can give
done.
my 2 cents worth.
But once again, all of these options, they'll all meet the Secretary's tier standards, and they'll all be acceptable. So there's philosophical decisions and in programming decisions.
You just don't want it to
Okay.
fall down. You
Whatever.
just want it to stay dry and not
So.
fall down. And
Just write these philosophical decisions down. Next historic building I work on, I want to review those carefully.
Yeah, let's do something, man. Anyway, well,
So
thank you for that.
that's my update.
Thank you.
I've been
Yes.
excited to work with her, and I'm just pleased as punch as we move forward because she really gets a handle on all the little and the big issues.
Yeah.
If they need decisions to be made, they can call me. Okay, and that's going to conclude
it.
it for this evening. Thank you very
What
much.
time are we to meet here
Oh,
Friday?
I'll be done.
Oh,